All right. Welcome, everybody, to CSM Mastermind. I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker and our success coaching training program. We're back for our monthly live webcast today discussing success plans. This learning opportunity is brought to you by Success Coaching, the world leader in customer success professional development training. We are closing in on 30,000 students from nearly 100 different countries. Our skills development platform is really making an impact across the globe. Whether you prefer self-paced learning, an instructor-led boot camp, an interactive workshop, or a personalized weekly coaching program, our wide range of customer-focused programs and formats are tailored to meet the unique needs and learning preferences of everyone. If you're eager to level up your customer-facing skills, don't miss out on these amazing learning opportunities that can truly transform your professional journey. Ashley has dropped a link to our program page and any coupons that we're offering right now into the chat. I know we have one special one for February, given that it's a leap year. So you can find out more about all of our programs and workshops at successcoaching.co. Now, this CSM Mastermind series is a live and unscripted discussion where we dig into a single topic relevant to customer success. No matter where you work, what your role is, or who your customers are, we've got you covered. Now, a few housekeeping items before we get going. This webinar is recorded and we'll be posting a replay and a transcript on our website early next week. We encourage active participation, so please feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A button located at the bottom of your Zoom interface. Questions with higher upvotes will receive priority during the Q&A session. And for our LinkedIn Live audience, you can also post your questions directly and they will be relayed to us. Thank you, Santana, for doing that. To maintain a smooth discussion, please use the chat window exclusively for commentary while directing your questions to the Q&A window. Now, there's a bunch of thought leadership out there, along with loads of theories on how to deliver customer success. But in this series, we're going to focus on practical, real-world advice, best practices, techniques, and shared experiences from those who are actually doing customer success day in and day out. Now, to make that happen, we've invited three amazing panelists to join me for a roundtable discussion. These are folks who are really damn good at what they do, and we're going to ask them to spill the beans on their experiences and their perspectives. So without further ado, I want our panelists to introduce themselves to you all and share a little bit about who they are and what they do. And let's get started, as usual, in alphabetical order with Delia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for having me in the panel, Andrew. I'm super thrilled to be here. So I'm Delia Visan. I'm from Romania. I'm currently a customer success lead with Druid AI. I've been here for the past 7 months. I've had my first contact with the customer success concept back in 2021. And since then, I've kind of fallen in love with the whole idea of walking the extra mile and walking the talk to make sure that you're making a difference and having a positive impact on your customers' lives and businesses. I have more than 15 years of experience in customer-facing roles. I went from customer service, customer support, account management, and right now customer success. And I've also collaborated directly with marketing teams, sales, product teams, legal, accounting, and so on. So practically, I've gained, let's say, 360-degree view on the whole customer journey and life cycle, both in corporations and startups. And this pretty much enables me to apply customized approaches on building and nurturing customer relationships and also growing them into mutual success. Again, I'm super thrilled to have this conversation with you tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for making the time for us. I know it's late for you. You're in...
It's 9 p.m. It's
9
cool.
p.m.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we see a glass of wine pop up as you're going through, we understand it's her after hours. So, but I love the fact that you've been in, in the way you classified is you've been in customer facing roles for 15 years. And that you've had that experience in customer service. We believe that customer service 3.0 is customer success. It's probably a different conversation for another time, but customer success is all about keeping your customers happy and helping them get a return on their investment. And so is customer service, and quite frankly, so is customer support. So Thank you. I appreciate you joining us and your perspective. Next up, Larissa.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Larissa Candido. I am a customer success manager at Cision. For those who don't know, Cision works with software for PR and communications professionals. So that's the industry that I am in right now. I started my professional career as a teacher and I slowly transitioned into the SaaS industry. Once in the industry, I started out as an implementation consultant, which was the perfect pairing with all the experience that I've gained as a teacher and all the tools that I was able to gather and the skills that I developed. And while in implementation, I discovered a little bit more about client success and the customer success manager roles. And that piqued my interest, mainly because I always felt that I wanted to continue that relationship with my clients, that I wanted to do a little bit more for them. And finding out about the CSM role was the perfect next step. So I went on to get myself certified. So I am certified through Success Coaching as well. And then I became a customer success manager shortly after that. One of the main reasons, as I said, that I love this role and I love this area is the relationships that we get to build with our clients and mainly becoming the reason for their success. Being the reason that our company at the end of the year are having good numbers, being the reason that a client is saying that they want to stay and they drop your name out there, makes it feel really nice that we can see the product of our day-to-day effort. And I definitely think that a success plan is where it all starts. So I'm super excited for this discussion and to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Larissa. You got a few fans there in the chat. And I was actually going to mention that, didn't you? When we were doing the prep call on Monday, didn't you mention you got gifted the success coaching?
So when I started getting interested, I actually got as a Christmas gift from my mother-in-law the certification level 1 while I was transitioning, and then Cision was able to allow me to go through level 2. So it's been really fun.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. And we appreciate you spending time with us today. We also appreciate Cision as a customer. And you also made another great point. And there were a few comments in the chat as well. People coming from education seem to make really good customer success managers. Right? There's a lot of things that you can apply from a background in teaching that are applicable. Love it. Awesome. Thanks, Larissa. And last but certainly not least, a returning guest, although it's been a while, Ty.
It has been a while.
Ty. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Ty Raia. Lots of vowels in the last name there, I know. So I've been working in customer success for the better part of 10 years now. So I'm old. In my previous companies, I've worked at a lot of SaaS, but one of the things that I thought I could add to this conversation is in the last 2 years, I made a shift over to cybersecurity, and I kind of had to throw away a lot of my go-tos for how to build my success plans because of the nature of the industry. So I thought what I could add to this conversation is what you might do when you're working in not a traditional SaaS company or a company that's moving from perpetual, right? So I am excited to hopefully add that into the conversation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. And like we teach in our courses, we're not teaching you a specific process. We're teaching you how to approach things. We're teaching you how to think. That's why we have these webinars as well. So I'm sure your perspective is going to be insightful. Awesome. Once again, yes, sir.
To add, part of that success is I've also done success coaching through level 4 and cannot recommend it more highly. I really love level 4, by the way. I think it's been my favorite so far.
Really? Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, we go a lot deeper in level 4, level 5 in particular pieces. So that's great feedback. I appreciate that. Awesome. So once again, we all appreciate your time today. Now let's get to the topic at hand. So today we're going to go on a journey through the ever-evolving landscape of customer success plans. right? Picture these plans not as static maps, but as living, breathing entities that grow and change as our customers work towards their goals. And as they reach one milestone, new horizons appear, bringing fresh objectives and challenges. So in this webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the heart of creating success plans that aren't set in stone, but are flexible, adaptable, and responsive to the shifting needs and business landscapes of our customers. We'll explore the art of continuously shaping these plans to keep up with each customer's evolving journey, making sure we're not just meeting their current goals, but also preparing for the future aspirations. So let's discover how to keep these plans alive and kicking, matching step by step with our customers' growth and changes. So to get us started, given that success plans can vary wildly from company to company, as Ty, you just mentioned, my first question to you, my guests, what is a success plan in your world, and what are the fundamental components of an effective customer success plan?
Well, I'd love to start if that's okay.
Yes.
So yeah, for me, a customer success plan is like building or crafting a roadmap, including the whole, the whole idea of resources, customer needs, customer desires, pain points and challenges, with the sole purpose of reaching or achieving mutual success. It's something that I've been doing for a lot of time, actually, and I've realized that the success plan is not necessarily just a document or a living document, and just like that. It's actually a dynamic strategy, and in my cases, at least, it's really involved project management, change management. I've always said that success, in order to be able to create a, let's say, successful success plan, you actually have to wear a lot of hats. So the complexity of a success plan, of course, depends on the, let's say, on the business level, on the line of business, on the industry of each business. But I think that the main components, of course, would be to make sure that you understand your customer needs or challenges and pain points, desired outcomes, the definition of success, of course, and not just understanding them, but also taking the information and applying your know-how and best practices, using that information to be able to create a collaborative, safe space for your customer to help them building success together. That would be for me.
Awesome. Larissa, you got anything to add?
No, I agree with Leah.
Ty, I know you've got an interesting kind of situation. I mean, one of the key things actually that Delia mentioned was the objectives, the desired outcomes, being able to quantify those things, which is super important, right? So you've got objective measures of success as opposed to subjective measures of success. So there's no ambiguity. But from our prep call, you mentioned that success plans are a different beast in your world.
Yeah. So I'll say one, yep, all of that plus you kind of hit it towards the tail end there. A lot of what I wind up doing looks a little bit more like project management, a little bit more focused on bigger milestones, right? I focus on things like tuning and optimization, as where before I might have relied a little bit more on like use of product or, login rates, things like that. But particularly working in the Fortune 50 and more recently in the Fortune 10, a lot of that looks like managing huge clients, right? And having to do that through kind of a project management framework. That's a lot of what I wind up doing.
Yeah, but your success plan though is success plans aren't project plans. You're surfacing the key actions, the key things that need to be completed in order for them to, okay, here, look, you can ring the bell. You've reached a milestone where you've achieved value.
Yeah. And I mean, like I could talk about this probably for the rest of the time period of what all goes into those. But I think having visibility on both sides, so there's accountability. I tend to, make sure that we assign ownership to all of those, right? So, because when you're working with companies that might have, 50 buildings just across one state, right? Having to organize where it's at and who owns that has been a really big part of making sure that things are actually.
Yeah. And that's, once again, that's what we're here to do, is to make sure that our customers are getting to where they want to go, right? We're kind of like the Sherpa, right? We're guiding them down the path. But there's stuff that they need to do, and there's stuff that we need to do. And there's a lot of detailed stuff behind the scenes, right? Which, once again, is for the project plan. But in order to drive, you mentioned the term accountability. One of the great ways to be able to drive accountability is by using this notion of, as we teach it, a one-page success plan. So you can surface, here are the key things that need to get done, and here are the people who are assigned to them, right? That creates accountability. It's a single page, right? There's nobody can make any excuses. Right? Have you ever, Larissa, Delia, have you ever been able to use that success plan to be able to point out, hey, so these people are responsible for these things, getting these things done?
Absolutely. For my industry, I'm working with communications and PR professionals. They will have teams that are using different parts of our system. So we have to plan out who is going to be responsible for who is going to send me what I need so I can help them. So is it team A? So team A is going to do A, B, and C. The second team. So we definitely work together with the different teams. And something just going back to something you mentioned, Andrew, something that I do tell my clients sometimes is that I tell them to think as if they are the tourists and my company is the country that they're coming to visit. And I am the local that can tell them the best places to go, how to get there, but they need to give me an idea of what they want to do first. So they tell me what they want to do first, and I will tell them how they can get there, the best ways, the best things that they can do. And that seems to sometimes clarify a little bit the goal of the success plan, which I'm sure we all have had a couple of clients just looking at us like blank and not really understand why we're even showing them the document. So I found that clarifying and making it a little bit more simple in the beginning has definitely helped, making sure that, hey, what's the team that wants to go to the mountain and who's the team that's going to the beach? So let's figure it out how we're going to get there and what we need to get there. But yeah.
Yeah, well, and continuing though on that travel analogy though, if the customer is saying, I want to go here, and you don't think that's going to be a good experience for them, right? You're going to say so. You're going to say, well, that's probably not the right place to go, right? And that's the same thing, when you're building a success plan, right? You need to be, well, you can ask the customer, what are you trying to achieve? And I'm going to help you get there. We also need to be focused on time to value. I don't think you're going to get the value that you're expecting out of that. How about this?
Exactly. Absolutely.
So how do you all, let's switch gears here a little bit. How do you, what kind of questions do you ask? What kind of things do you do to align the success plan with the customer specific goals and objectives? Are you doing discovery calls? What kind of questions are you asking them? Like in that last example, do you find yourselves taking that more consultative approach and guiding the customer down different paths?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, for example, related to also the previous question, the roles and responsibilities type of discussion that I usually have with the customers. It's more like I'm guiding them also from the career development coaching perspective sometimes, but it's like I'm guiding them towards achieving that definition of success that they have, that has to be aligned with, at the end, the outcomes that are going to be met at the end of the whole period for the success plan. So of course we have discovery calls, we have meetings, we have a lot of questions that we ask that focus more on not just the needs and the challenges, but also the fears that the customers have. For example, I fear that I won't be able to achieve this goal, and my role as a, I don't know, sometimes maybe project manager would be in danger. So we are also keeping score or taking into consideration not just the, let's say, business desired outcomes, but also personal, professional desired outcomes of the champions or the external stakeholders from time to time. So it's a bit of a more complex conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's not just the consultancy, the consulting approach. It's only it's more of the whole, let's say, holistic approach, right? It's not just asking the question, receiving the information, and put it somewhere with finding some KPI, some metrics, trackability measures, and so on, but also giving it a form, shaping it in a way that the customer understands exactly the direction. And sometimes we are also creating some kind of forecast for them to be able to estimate how things would be in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, if they choose a specific KPI or a specific target as a percentage, for example. So yeah, it's a pretty complex process from start to end.
I like that you touched on there the key stakeholders and what their objectives are, what their specific objectives are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why a company is doing business with you. When a key stakeholder has signed up on a contract with you, they're not just doing it to spend money, right?
Exactly.
They're doing it because they're looking for some sort of outcome, some sort of return on their investment.
Exactly.
And that return on that investment is likely something that has to do with some overarching corporate objective that they're trying to achieve that may be well beyond the sights of the people that you're working with on a daily basis.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in a previous life, at previous companies, I've been able to kind of go on some fact-finding missions because I had visibility into the customer, right? What their environments are like, how they were consuming. And when I first started this job, I realized that I didn't really have that, and I had to learn to ask better questions. So one of the people I met with really early on is actually Bob London, who some of you might know.
Bob has we have a very nice. Yeah, well, Bob is actually delivering a workshop on our platform now.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
The Strategic Customer Conversations is now I think it's a monthly workshop. I don't know, Ashley, is it monthly? We doing his monthly?
It's kind of quarterly. Yeah.
Quarterly. Okay. Yeah.
Well, can't recommend that highly enough. He helped me craft together better questions to get the answers that I needed. Glenn in the comments came pretty close to the direction I was heading in, right? How is that person measured? How are they getting? What's the thing that keeps them up at night, right? Like, what's the one thing if my product went away, right? That would be just an absolute nightmare for them. Which of our competitors would they be willing to talk to? Why? So I openly have those conversations on a pretty regular basis to get that information, whereas before I could really rely on the software.
Yeah, how were you measured is a question I find myself regularly asking customer success leaders. I mean, I've stepped back from the day-to-day selling and business development because I'm really focused on developing the content, but it is one of the most common questions I ask. But now I'm sorry, go ahead, Larissa.
Sorry, Andrew. I was just going to add that for us and my team, we also do what we call an internal debrief before we even have a discovery call with the client, which involves speaking with the sales team that was involved in closing that contract with the client. And that sometimes is really, really helpful. We won't get to the goals on that conversation, but we have a good understanding of the objectives already. So what, like we were saying, what the key stakeholders, the higher ups are looking for, we are able to already have a good idea. So when we get to that discovery call, like Ty mentioned, we are better prepared with pertinent questions, questions that are already addressing some of the things that were discussed during the sales process, which I find it really, really helpful to get the insight from the teams that have already been working on the onboarding team as well. Those are great conversations to have to help us prepare a well balanced success plan, even if it's just initial.
Hey, Ashley, will you drop a link to Bob's program
Yes,
page,
will
please,
do.
when you have a chance? Awesome. All right, so asking good questions, being prepared, love that, Larissa. You got to show up prepared. You got to show up. You never show up with a blank customer with a blank success plan. You need to show up with something, right? You need to have some understanding. That's key. But let's kind of move to this, stuff changes especially these days. It's a fast changing world. How can we ensure that our customer success plans not only react, but also proactively adapt to the evolving needs and goals of our customers? And I think part of that is what you said, Ty, is having those conversations regularly. We all agree? Is that it?
I mean, again, I could talk about this topic ad nauseum.
I know. Well, we're here to talk about this topic ad nauseum. We do have some questions, by the way. Yep. So, folks, if you have questions, please add them because we will we'll get to your questions here in about 20 minutes, or sorry, about 10 minutes.
So at least for me, one of the big ones is making sure that I have success plans that are accessible to my customers. So I try to, and this isn't just the role I'm in now, this is historically, I like to keep everything really transparent. I don't do a secret success plan behind the scenes. I keep it really on the level with my customers. They certainly can tell the difference of if I'm trying to pull something out from left field. So everything is planned, documented. They both have both I and the customer have access at all times. So anything that's coming up or anything that's not documented, we're both guilty of, right? It doesn't reside on one side or the other. I also like to ask things like, what do we have planned for this quarter? What do we have planned for this year? What are the goals of, the company's overall goals for that quarter? And then, kind of devise what our milestones
are. For example, in my case, I think that, let's say the foundation is, as also Ty said, open and transparent and honest communication, right? And afterwards, I think that the part of research on my side is something that's definitely going to help from the productivity perspective. So having those reviews with the customer is going to help me confirm what I have already learned from talking or just researching the company website, LinkedIn, the stakeholders' LinkedIn profile, Google, and so on. So I think, this is something that's going to help from the productivity perspective. And then, of course, keeping the whole success plan flexible and easy to accommodate changes. This is also something that's going to help in this uncertain business context that we currently live in.
I think it's important that you're keeping a library of all those success plans. It's like one of those flip books that where it's evolving, because you're going to be able to go back. That's a great tool, by the way, for business reviews, to be able to go back and say, hey, look, this is where we started and this is all that we've accomplished. Right. So success plans make for a great way to demonstrate the effort and the value that's been created. Let's see. What else? So how often are you reviewing and updating those success plans? Typically? Are you doing them weekly, monthly, only at business review time? Does it depend on where the customer's at in their journey? What have been your your best practices or that sort of thing?
I would say in a perfect world, I would love to always be reviewing my success plans with my clients every quarter, every 3 months. I think that that's great. It's a great way to just keep track of everything in those blocks, which is where everything usually changes from one to the next. But truthfully, that's not the reality for a lot of the clients that we work with. So I do try to have that check-in every couple months, especially with the clients that are harder for us to get in touch with or get answers from. I try to be a little bit more proactive with them. Some are more responsive, and we're able to work through and have a great journey when it comes to the success plan. But again, we can try, but sometimes it's hard to get clients to be on board, and even timing too, which I think sometimes it is important to be mindful of clients' time and not make everybody overwhelmed. But yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to overwhelm people for sure.
Yeah,
what do you got to add, Ty?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it depends on your CS action, right? Are you time-driven, milestone-driven, or relationship-driven, right? That's going to determine where you're adjusting those playbooks, right? I work in mostly enterprise, so mine's relationship-driven. SMB, right, is usually more action or time-driven. That is my simple, very boring, but I think truthful answer.
Very boring. Very boring answer. Delia, you have anything to add?
I would have actually, because from at least in my experience, usually and ideally monthly business reviews, quarterly business reviews. But in the past 2 years, I've realized that there are so many changes happening in different industries that we definitely need to be able to accommodate changes whenever the context requires it, right? So we've had situations when we had to adjust success plans in different moments, right? Not necessarily monthly or quarterly, but ad hoc, right, when the change was being implemented in the company, and then we had to accommodate the success plan. So I think what's really important here is not to have something. I mean, it's okay to have, and it's important to have something set up, right, and to have a constant. But I think it's also super important in order to build trust with your customers to still be flexible and open to to your customers' needs and your customers' requests when it comes to changes in the success plan.
Yeah, for sure. Prescriptive yet flexible, right?
Yeah.
Anybody have an example that they want to talk about where a success plan significantly impacted a customer's journey positively? Anybody want to share or can share? I know some of you.
One.
Yes. Yeah.
I have one. And this is actually not a new client. It was actually a client that had been with our company for a little while, and it was made a decision that it would be beneficial for them to have a CSM join their account. This client was all over the place with their goals and their objectives. It was everything and anything that they wanted, that they needed, that they were expecting that we could accomplish. So with the success plan, what I loved from the results of it is that we were able to make sure that expectations were set, that the client was more understanding of time frames. So how long it would take for us to get to certain places that they were expecting to be. So things that they were thinking that we would be able to accomplish in 2 weeks, reality was it was going to take much longer than that. And the success plan allowed us to have that visual and allow the client to have a more full understanding of the work that they needed to put in and the work that the company was going to help them with. And in the end, once we were able to get through that initial walkthrough, it was great to see how excited the entire team was and how much more value they saw on our product as well, which at the end of the day is part of the goal of creating that success plan is to show the value of what they have. So it was amazing to see how the team then came much more together when we were working. We were able to differentiate what was their objectives versus what were our goals. So it was a great learning experience for me as well. But yeah, I loved working with that client, and leveraging the success plan was amazing to get them to a better place.
Yeah, so that leveraging that success plan helped them realize even more value. But I think the vehicle, what it did, so that was the end goal. That was the lagging indicator, was we finally got the customer to get more value. But what you did was you created what one of the core principles of success planning is you drove focus. Right here, let's focus on these things that are going to really move the needle.
Yes.
And the success plan creates that environment of focus,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
These are the things that we're going to do, and this is what you're going to get out of it.
Yes.
Love that. Anybody else have an example, or should we go to questions? We got a bunch of questions.
That's a great question.
Unsurprisingly, we get a bunch of questions. You ready for questions? All right. So I see, Ty, you've weighed in on a couple of these. So Delia, Larissa, if you want to take a look at the questions and let me know, I'm going to ask the first question, but let me know if there's anything else that you see here that you want to jump in on right out of the gate. So our first question comes from Harris, which is actually it's a good segue from that last from your example there, Larissa. Harris asks, the success plan course that Success Coaching offers only discusses from the context of starting success plans from the time of onboarding a new customer. I'd like to get some thoughts and advice around the approach of introducing success plans with existing customers who are in the adoption phase instead of onboarding. And Ty, looks like you wanted to jump in on this right out of the gate. I definitely have some thoughts to share. It sounds like Larissa may as well. So Ty, why don't you jump into this? Ty.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, sorry.
We weren't sure if you were frozen or in deep thought.
Yes, the answer there is yes. No, I was just saying that this is actually primarily what I wind up doing. I don't usually have customers right at onboarding necessarily. They're usually established customers. And the thing that I do to start that off is I basically gather all the information that I believe to be true about that customer, and then use that to confirm my understanding, which allows me to ask really interesting questions. And then from there, we develop the rest of the success plan.
Love that. We had a VP of customer success go through our program a few years ago, pretty early on, and he got to the success plan course, and we laid this all out for him, and he was so freaking excited. There's actually I believe there's also a case study for it somewhere on our website. But these guys were in this organization was in the high value asset tracking. So they had a combination of hardware and software that would be used to track high value assets. They were big into the railroad, so they would attach this piece of hardware to the railroad cars, and then they would have it was Ytronics. Ashley, can you check on the website, and if you can find the Ytronics? I thought we had a white paper on
yes,
Ytronics. I dropped that in there, but I believe it was on. Anyways, he went through the program and just jumped on the whole success plan concept, and they didn't apply it to new customers. They actually test drove it with their existing customers, and they had one very large existing customer who was in the railroad business. They did railroads and shipping and like large car fleets and things like that. The first customer he approached, which is always good when you're doing, you're rolling out success plans, you approach it friendly. They loved the idea, and in that process, they were able to uncover, I think, another $500,000 worth of opportunity with that one customer because they had rolled out the success plan. So you definitely can go beyond just onboarding, the initial onboarding of customers. And I believe in the new refresh we're going to be coming out with for level 1. I talk about how success plans can be applied to existing customers, Harris. So as far as the content goes, I believe we've addressed that. Anybody else, Delia, Larissa, you want to chime in here on Harris's question?
I think everything was covered, but it is important to keep in mind with clients that have already been using the system or the product that you were assisting, is that they already have a good knowledge. So sometimes what you were used to walk your clients through when it comes to success plan may not be the same. So you need to keep that in mind and be prepared, because they will come to you with a lot of things already that usually doesn't happen when you have a brand new client. But as you said, upsell opportunities or something beautiful that can come up from building a success plan from a current client, for example.
Awesome. Sorry, I got the mute button on because, of course, my gardeners, even though I've asked them, they show up at the worst possible times on Wednesdays. Let's see. Delia, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just from one experience that I had with a customer. So they were a current customer, and I was trying to create a success plan with them. The only problem was the fact that they were having technical issues with the product that they bought from us. And I realized that even though a success plan would have helped at some point, that was not the right moment to introduce the success plan to that customer. And the biggest lesson that I've learned from that situation was the fact that, first of all, even if, for example, a customer success manager should not get their hands dirty on technical requests or service requests, there is no way we could force a success plan on a customer if they are having some issues that are negatively impacting their operational side, their business processes, and so on. So what I've done at that point was just to take care of the main issue, which was to engage all internal teams in solving those technical issues as fast as possible. And after that situation was solved, I could then go with the success plan proposal to the customer, and everything was, happy ending.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Harris, thank you so much for your question. Hey, Ty, if you could hit the done button there. And by the way, Ashley did drop a link to our blog post on Ytronics. So you can find that in the chat. And Dave, by the way, Dave Swope, Dave, thank you for dropping the link. Also dropped a link for our success plan Canvas blog post as well in chat. Our next question comes from Corinne. Corinne asks, what's the best format for a success plan? What presentation style has been most successful for you all? Larissa, you wanted to jump in on this one first?
Yes, absolutely. And as Andrew mentioned earlier, the best format for a success plan is a one-page, so that there's no excuse. Everything that you need is in there in that one page for all of your clients to see and have that information right away. Another thing, I think that for my team and how we use a PowerPoint slide. We based our template actually from Success Coaching. The template is Success Coaching provides. So our success plan looks very similar. A couple of the things that are important and valuable to have on that one page, on that format in your success plan is have a little, a quick note on who your client is. What is the company, what they do. If you want to add who is the main point of contact in there, remember it's a live document. So having that main point of contact will allow the team to change it. If that person moves to a different position or leaves the company, they know that that's who we are seeing as the main point of contact. So that's also great information. objectives, number one, that should always be a part of your success plan. And another thing that I really like a lot is next steps or future goals, anything along those lines where you are already aligning with what your clients are hoping to get in the future. On my industry, it's a lot of campaigns, a lot of things along those lines. So if we have to start planning for the future, we have a little next steps under there as well. But I think that the main thing is one page. Whiteboard is a great way to present a success plan as well, because it's really, really interactive and it's live. Everyone can share and add to it as well. But keeping it in one page, having that objectives in there, I think those are the two main things. If you haven't seen a template that Success Coaching has, I would definitely suggest you do. I think it's great. It gives you a great idea of where to start and adjust to your industry and what you actually do with your clients. I hope that this answers a little bit of your question.
Awesome. Thanks, Larissa. We have plenty of students that have taken our, it's just like everything else we do. We teach you the concepts. We teach you how to think about it, how to approach things, right? Our success plan, that success plan canvas is a starting point. But like you mentioned, some of the key things that are super important are having a detail of what the objectives are. I think that having the some sort of roadblocks or risks, I think is important, that everybody is constantly aware of here are the challenges, the key challenges, as we put it, that there's some place there where you're listing all of the key activities that need to be accomplished in order for the customer to achieve what they're trying to achieve, along with dates and the names of people or groups that have individuals responsible for that group tied to those key activities, right? Driving accountability. And then the final piece is measures of success. How do we indicate when we've achieved what we're trying to achieve, right? And those should be quantifiable. It should be specific numbers. We are looking to increase efficiency by X percentage. We are looking to lower expenses by X percentage, right? There are a handful of these things, these desired outcomes, these quantifiable desired outcomes. There's a finite set of them. If you think about it, companies call them different things. They refer to them in different ways. But at the end of the day, there's only so many things that companies are going to be looking for you to achieve. And having those on the success plan and it being a single page is super important, because you don't want to give, like you mentioned, Larissa, you don't want to give anybody an excuse to not look at it. A single page success plan is something that everybody from the CEO all the way down to one of your own support people who may be supporting your customer can look at and quickly understand, okay, here's where the customer's at and where they're going. Did we lose Ty?
I think
Yes.
we did.
Yeah, it seems like that.
Did we actually lose him from he dropped off okay, well, we'll keep going. Delia, anything else to add on that?
No, not here, no.
Okay, I'm sure Ty will. I'm sure he'll join us. All right, so our next question comes from Skimmer. Skimmer asks, any advice for success plans for SMB, something that can be done at scale with lower touch? Delia, you want to jump in on this? I definitely have some thoughts on this.
Well, it's not necessarily an advice, but it's more like a personal opinion from my experience. I worked with a lot of SMBs, and I think that one lesson learned is that there is not one size fits all type of success plan, especially for SMBs, where there are a lot of, let's say, changes that come and practically hit us from nowhere. Because in smaller companies, usually we decide on something today, and 1 week from now things change completely. What I would suggest here would be to, what I've done at least, would be to let's say create the structure, the basic structure, most likely. Have a discovery call with the customer, at least present the success plan, have the discovery call, make sure that you understand everything and not on at the superficial level, but really, really in detail. Then take the information, apply it on building and, creating the success plan, and work with the customer to be able to have that successful success plan and collaboration that we all want to have on the success plans. What I've done for SMBs, for example, depending on the scale level, I would say, or at least on the level of development of that specific company, is to limit the number of KPIs. This is something that we've done together, because the business processes are not that complex sometimes, and the number of employees is way lower than in enterprises, of course. So limiting the KPIs is also another idea from my side. And just try to not consider that all SMBs are kind of the same from the success plan creation perspective, because we always have to customize based on every single customer, needs, profile, industry, type of business, and so on. That would be my take on this.
So here's my take, and I'm gonna look at it not from the SMB piece, but from the low touch piece. Right. I think what you need to do is, if you can do something that's low touch or no touch, what that tells me is you have a relatively homogeneous product. Right. So what I would do if I were you is I would look at your customer base, and I would look for, the most common use. Right here, looking at our customer base, here are 2 or 3 of the most common use cases that they are using our product for. And then from that, I would identify, based off of what those use cases are, what the most common desired outcomes are. And what you want to do is you want to build almost like a configurator, right? Where you're asking the customer, so you can, and you can create these success plans automatically behind the scenes just through a question and answer session with the customer. And that doesn't necessarily have to be in person. Once again, it's difficult for us to give you anything more detailed than that, because we don't know what your product is. But I've seen in situations where we've had companies that have a product that can be low touch, no touch, that they identified, a couple of the most common use cases. They came up with a set of questions that could be answered by, multiple choice, multiple select, what have you. And then based off of those answers, what it does, it automatically generates a success plan and says, okay, based off what you're trying to achieve, we can get you to this desired outcome that we've identified as being important for you, following these steps. And then here comes the drip campaign that follows that and says, okay, do this, do this, do this. So it's doable. Once again, it depends. It depends on what your product is and how much direct interaction you need. And I agree with you with the KPIs, Delia. So what you want to be in that type of situation, you want to be very prescriptive, right? That you can achieve a return on their investment for this set of use cases, and here are the KPIs that are associated with it, so we can demonstrate that you're getting that return on your investment. And if you want to go any farther than that, if you want to go beyond that, or if we see there is a potential for you to go beyond that, then we need to get involved. That's my take on that. Larissa, Ty, I don't know if you Ty, this was the question was, any advice for success plans for SMB, something that can be done at scale with lower touch?
Then I think you just hit the nail on the head, right?
Yeah. If you guys got anything to add to that, though?
I mean, I would just add that in terms of the KPIs, right, with traditional SaaS, right, there's a lot of metrics you can use to build those out. When you don't have those measurements, so what I did to build those is I found like our top 5 customers had every use case, loved the product, and I did some customer journey calls with them and then developed what those KPIs are based off of them. So those look more like training maturity, like how many certs do they have, critical tickets in a period of time, tuning and optimization, versus some standard ones we use in SaaS.
And P Jennifer dropped into chat. I think in order to do that digitally, you need to have the experience and success that you know is repeatable. 100%.
100%.
Not said you need to do this. Ideally, you're doing this manually at first so you can figure it all out, right? And then you automate.
Yep.
Awesome. Skimmer, thank you for the question. Delia, if you can hit the done button. Just a reminder, we'll go until quarter past the hour. So if you can stick around, we're going to keep answering questions. If you have to leave at the top of the hour, once again, the entire recording and our transcript will be available on our website sometime next week. Ola, thanks for joining us. Ola asks, can you share any lessons learned from situations where success plans did not meet the expected outcomes and what adjustments were made? And Delia, you want to jump in on this one, yeah?
Yeah. So I've usually heard the idea that having a customer success plan in place is a guarantee of success, which is a myth. And I mean, from my experience, even if you create a success plan and you are very careful when you plan it and the execution is perfect, impeccable, it depends on so many aspects if the success plan will be successful or not at the end. The first lesson learned would be to have realistic goals and objectives. Always have them SMART, because you need to have them quantitative and qualitative. Always be not so optimistic when you sometimes trust 100% your customer optimism, right? Try to be the realistic person in the room and the rational one. Add percent or values that actually make sense on the 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and so on period that's being chosen by you guys together.
That's huge. I mean, that's core customer success. That's expectation management, right? If your customer thinks that they're going to get all this value in a short period of time, you got to kind of put, and that's not possible. It's better to tell them now than to wait, right? You're having bigger issues down the road. Yeah.
Another lesson learned is related to the specific stakeholders that were taking ownership of specific tasks. Because we've had at some point 2 stakeholders who left the company, and those KPIs, of course, were no longer being taken care of on the customer side, which was a bit complicated because we also had to kind of fill in those shoes, which was pretty difficult for us and not at all appropriate, if you ask me. So another lesson learned from that would be to make sure that if a stakeholder leaves from the company, from the customer company, make sure that they're somehow, or at least you say to the customer, you tell to the customer that there needs to be an internal handover on their side from the person who's leaving to their replacement, so they could take over the whole success plan task. Those would be the main lessons learned. And from the adjustments perspective, in the first case with the not realistic KPIs, of course, we had at some point a review, and we've discussed and we realized together that we had to adjust on the percentages, and everything went pretty smoothly afterwards. And I think that something that really helped in the situation was the approach that we had towards the customer, where we explained to them, so this is not going to work on this period. Let's see how we can adjust those KPIs for the next 3 months, 6 months. And based on the progress that we will be able to track, we will see if we can return to the initial percentage for the next months, because it's important to take it step by step, small to small, to be able to create the whole success outcomes eventually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. Larissa, Ty, anything to add?
I think the only thing I would add is don't be afraid to ask what you might perceive to be dumb questions. I would say the biggest mistakes I've had is making base assumptions that seem just easy, and really starting from the bare bones, and just not being afraid to look stupid for a minute, frankly.
Well, if you're not clear on something, you're a lot better off getting clarity than you are going down the wrong path, right? This is all about one of the key aspects of the success plan is to set the customer off on the right path, right? And if they're not on the right path, or you don't think that their expectations are going to take them down the right path, then you need to tell them now and not wait until you're farther down the path where it's going to be a lot more contentious. It's going to require a lot more effort for your customer and for you to get them back on the path.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to have difficult conversations with your customers. You have to be able to tell them, no, that's not going to work, or I think that your expectations are unrealistic. Right? You can't tell your customer what you think they want to hear. You need to tell them what they need to hear.
I did a blog post like a little while back about hey, your fly is down, right? Like, let's be honest, it's that friend that goes, your fly is down. That's the friend that you trust to be honest with you, right? It might be embarrassing for the moment, both to ask and to hear. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's the person you're going to turn to when you have a serious question, right? Not the one who pretends like everything's okay.
For sure. Are you telling me my fly's down?
Yes, Andrew.
Thank you for that question. Our next question comes from Vidya. Vidya, thank you for the question. How can you implement effective strategies to initiate dialogue with a distant and unresponsive client? Additionally, what methods can be utilized to cultivate a more positive and responsive relationship with them? So it's a little off the topic of success plans, but it looks like Delia, you want to jump in on this. So why don't you answer, Vidya?
Yeah, super quickly. So the first thing would be to understand why the customer is distant and unresponsive. Do some research. Maybe they left the company. Maybe they don't feel like the conversations you have as in the partnership and collaboration bring them the relevant value. Maybe they are not into the whole communication from their stakeholder perspective. Maybe they're not the contact person for the moment. Maybe their job changed. There can be a lot of reasons, and from my experience, a lot of things happen just like that. And I think that the first step would be to really understand why they are distant and non-responsive. And then, in order to cultivate a more positive and responsive relationship to them, what I usually do is to keep them engaged, just to send them a reminder that I remember them. For example, I do research on a specific industry, and if I find something, I don't know, a link with some information that I think they might benefit of, I'm just popping up an email. Hey, I found this today in the news. I think it might help you with your, process that we've talked about previously, because I'm actually providing some value without asking anything in return. And this starts building the relationship and building trust moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. It's a strategy I use over and over and over again, just to stay in touch and provide value. Hey, I just saw something that you might be interested in. It's in your space. It's in your wheelhouse, or congratulations on your team winning that award, that industry award, whatever it is, right? Every time you're reaching out to the customer, you should be reaching out with some value, right? And if they're not responding, it could be that, like you said, but it also could be for things that are well outside of your control. If the company is in retail, for example, and you're reaching out to them between Black Friday and New Year's, well, that's a terrible time to try and engage with people in retail, because they're busy. It's the busiest time of the year for them. Right? We talk about this in our re-engaging disengaged customers content on the platform. Right? So so before, the first thing that you need to determine is the customer truly disengaged? And I love that you brought up to Leah. Hey, maybe they're not with the company. There are things outside. It's not just about you. That's the other thing you need to remember. It's not just about you. You are one piece of a bigger puzzle that they're dealing with. So, anything to add,
Yeah, I got
Anybody?
two quick things to add. One, I will say that the notion of you have to be in touch with your customer basically all the time is, I think, a misnomer in the CS community, right? Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave them alone and give them their time back, and depending on that relationship and product. And then the other is I like to do what I like to call hidden carrots. So I'll do a reach out with maybe 5 things that I know are really critical to them, and I'll give them 1 or 2 and say, I'd love to hop on a call to walk through the other 3 that I found. But they have to be really good carrots to do it.
Yep. That's also a great way to get people to show up to business reviews. That's one of our strategies, as you know, right? Hey, there's this thing that we did. We did we did an analysis of other customers in your space, and we learned this one thing. I got 4 other things. If you show up to the business review, we'll cover it. So, hidden carrots. Yeah, exactly. Love it. Awesome. Thank you, Vidya, for your question. I want to get to this question. I want to get this question by Natalie, because Natalie asked a specific question of me. Natalie asks, Andrew mentioned never come to a success plan with the success plan blank. But outside of the customer background, our team has been told to do just that and fill out everything with the customer sign off on the document during the session. Any thoughts on this, or can you elaborate on why you'd advise against it? So my take is that if you show up with a success plan that's pretty well filled out, what it shows to the customer is that you've done your homework, right? You don't want to show up asking the same questions that they've already answered to your sales team. Okay, it shows you didn't do your homework, right? You show up and you are there to validate what you've been told, what you understand, go deeper in the areas that you need to go deeper in, and then revise that success plan so that you can send it back out to them once you're done and say, okay, based off our conversation, here is where the success plan is at. Here are the people that are responsible for these things. And once again, you can't fill out a success plan completely, right? But you should be able to put the company information in there, the objectives. You should be able to list the key challenges, right? Here are the key challenges as either the key challenges that they've already discussed with you or the key challenges that you typically see. You should be able to provide the customer with some suggested desired outcomes as a starting point for that discussion of quantifiable outcomes. And you should be able to list, here are the key activities based off of what we understand. Here are the key activities that are going to need to happen working backwards. Hey, your key stakeholder said you want to have this ready to go by June 1st. Well, if we're going to hit a June 1st delivery, then we need to do this by this date, and this by this date, and this by this date. And then it's just kind of filling things in. It's adding the names to the people, specific dates, getting that all bought off on. But you need to show up with something. And that's what we teach. And that has, from my experience, has been the most effective use of that time. But I open it up to my guests and your perspective on that.
I just want to add one hidden genius to doing it this way that I think is underappreciated, which is oftentimes, particularly those goals or objectives you get from sales, comes from whoever signed the contract, and the team that you're working with is often the operational team. And knowing the difference between what the goals are of those executives versus that operational team is key information. And you won't have that conversation, at least not honestly, unless you have this particular approach.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and it's a great opportunity to, and we hope that key stakeholder shows up for that initial meeting. Right, because one of the key things, the other thing that's nice about the whole success planning process is it demonstrates to you as the vendor how aligned is this customer that you're working with, right? Because if you've got the key stakeholder saying, we're looking to do X, and the rest of the team's thinking, no, we're trying to do Y. Okay, well, we need key stakeholder to help us figure out, where the misalignment is.
And then maybe ask the question again with the key stakeholder not in the room to see if you get a different answer. Would be my advice there.
Exactly. Okay, I think we got time for maybe one more question. two more questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Delia, Larissa, do either one of you want to add to that? My answer there?
No.
So Julia asks, in a world where CS is now expected to tangibly demonstrate their value, not just internally, but also to customers, how do you ensure that your success plans align with and demonstrate measured success that the customers actually value? Well, part of that is agreeing on what that quantifiable definition of success is, right? Right? It's being able to, it's actually putting into the success plan, we are expecting an increase of efficiency of 15%. Okay, because 15% from the customer's mind is, hey, that's real value to us. And whatever that quantifiable outcome is, it's got to be something that's you want as many quantifiable outcomes as possible, so that you can point to it and say, hey, look, we hit that 15%. Hey, look, we were able to process 100 more items in that period of time. Whatever that desired outcome is, because then you could point to it and say, okay, well, what we agreed to when we began this journey together was that you would find value by allowing us, by implementing our system that, and that would increase your throughput by 100 items per day. Well, we've hit that. We've increased your throughput by 100 items per day. So therefore, we've achieved success, right? It's unambiguous.
Do you guys want to add anything? We can certainly.
Okay. Anybody?
So the two things that I would say is, I think things like expansion or renewal, right? They're the results of a well-run process, not the goal of the process. And I think sometimes the managers or people setting up those objectives forget that. Yeah, I think that's actually all I was going to say.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm literally in the throes of revising our level 2 managing retention and driving renewals piece of content. And what I basically have said was all that stuff that you did after you signed the customer, right? There's no secret sauce to managing retention and driving renewals other than do what you said you were going to do and help the customer achieve value.
I guess the only other thing I would say is if you actually need to prove it is scope creep, right? So what happens when you don't have success plans in is people keep moving the goalpost on you, right? I wanted 10%. I wanted 20%. I wanted 30%, right? And when you have that locked in stone, you don't have that creep. And then what I would do is look at customers that don't have CS and look at that scope creep and compare from there. That's probably one of the quickest ways I can show value.
Love it. Awesome. All right. Well, we've come to the end of our time together today. I want to say how awesome our conversation has been. But hey, what matters most is what all of you think. So I kindly ask you to share your valuable feedback on LinkedIn, tagging me, our guests, or Success Coaching. Big thank you to my amazing panelists for generously sharing their ideas, thoughts, insights, and best practices. Let me leave you with this thought. Exceptional customer success managers understand that they don't have all the answers, but they sure know where to find them. That's why we've created the CSM Mastermind to tap into the collective knowledge and experience of our community to support everyone's growth. Remember to sign up and mark your calendars for our next event on March 20th, when we'll talk about aligning customer desired outcomes to their overarching business objectives. That's going to be a great discussion. Until then, make sure to make space for yourself and your mindset every day, and have a great rest of your week and month, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.